Welcome! Hey, it's the Genesee County Compassion Club show. How's everybody doing today? Man, it's a gorgeous day here in Flint. Coming to you live from allpointstv.com. If you guys have questions or comments, call into the show. Glad to hear from you. Check out the other podcast if you can. I got John in the studio here making it happen.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Good. All right, it's April 26th. It's an absolutely gorgeous day. It's almost 80 degrees out there. They said we were going to get rain today, but I haven't seen a raindrop yet. Knock on wood. But it is absolutely gorgeous. Man, I'm glad to be here with you today. We had a fantastic last week at 420 party, which was a huge success. It was a fun time. We were absolutely packed, even though it was like a monsoon. You guys came out, you made it happen, and it was a lot of fun. And we had hot dogs, we had stromboli, we had pizza. I mean, there's all kinds of goodies. Door prizes. Had an incredible pie eating contest. It was off the chart. It's freaking amazing. Aaron, you are the Viking pie eating warrior. You're insane. It was freaking awesome. You had the twist off. You had Robert. He's like 5-time champion, most creative joint roller ever. People have been copying his work. Took it again. And also you had Tiffany, also like 4 or 5-time champion, fastest roller in the West and the East and the North and the South. She's quick, folks. 6 seconds, bam, ready to roll, ready to smoke. Fastest joint rolling I've ever seen. That was like a record breaker right there. Anybody beat 6 seconds? 6 seconds? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Where's your joint?
I had my headphones off because I couldn't reach. They wouldn't reach over
you
the
were
other
trying
side.
to roll one, I understand.
Yeah. I wouldn't even know how to do that. I would be pathetic looking.
Yeah.
You have the most pathetic, category. The most pathetic joint.
We'll work on that one.
Yeah. I'd participate in that.
Spin you around like 5 times and blindfold you. Make you do it with just your left hand.
Right.
How's that?
It's like I'm right-handed, so I'd be really screwed.
Yeah, you'd be really up a creek. So, but no, we had a fantastic time. You guys made it awesome. Thank you so much for everybody coming out. Thank you so much for everyone who donated for our auction. For all our vendors who make it fantastic. For all of our staff who made it rock. Thank you very much. 420 this year was awesome. All right, the other thing we had going on this last week was the Adopt a Highway. It was also good. We went out there, cleaned up M13. It's spick and span. And thank you very much to all of you who came out and helped clean up. Definitely appreciate it. We had some fantastic pulled pork sandwiches after that was done that, quite frankly, I'd have gone out and cleaned another highway if you'd just give me another one. They were delicious. Thank you, Michelle. And Michelle, if you see Michelle over there making your food, working at the Holistic Center, make sure you say hi to member number 420, because that's who it is. It's Michelle, 420, member number 420. All right, I got some news I wanted to share with you guys today. Got some interesting stuff that's been going on. I didn't make it in last week because we were busy with 420, so I've got all kinds of great news stories I want to share with you today, get you guys informed and let you know what's been happening in the world of cannabis. We're talking about medical cannabis, and without further ado, let's dive into it. So the first story I wanted to share with you today is all about autism. First thing I want to say is that our state actually reviewed adding autism onto the list of qualifying conditions for medical marijuana. It was done about 2 years ago. Unfortunately, it was shot down. The panel of doctors, the ones who really would be the people to make that decision, they actually voted for it. They said, yes, we think autism should be on the list of conditions. We think there's more positives to allowing people to try it than we do feel that there would be potential negatives. Of course, right? So they did. They made that recommendation. The problem is that your lieutenant governor, Brian Calley, basically vetoed that. And you might say, well, how the heck does the lieutenant governor get involved? Well, he did, apparently. He got involved and he shut that down. And so basically he's a douche. We'll leave it at that. At any rate, here's some interesting information about cannabis and autism. All right? So moving forward, what's been happening is that Israel, which for those of you that don't know, Israel has been a leader in researching medical cannabis now for like literally 2 decades. No. More than that. Like since the 60s. I mean, these guys have been at the pinnacle of research. We're talking about real research here, the kind that's done by doctors, the kind that's done at universities. Israel's been doing it, has been done it, and there's not too much they haven't done yet, but they are continuing to do research, and right now They're doing a special research project on specifically autism and cannabis. And what they're finding out, which I thought was kind of cool, is that basically it's CBD is what they think at this point. They think that CBD, one of the active cannabinoids in cannabis, is one of the most effective things at treating people with autism. So this is really cool. Let's see here. Let me pull this story up for you. You can check this out on USA Today. And I was checking it out until my phone just blipped on me. But, all right. Looking at this. Basically right now it's anecdotal evidence. So they're trying to move from the anecdotal stage into the scientific stage. But they do believe that the non-psychoactive compound of CBD is making an impact in a way that no other medication has. So it's not even necessarily a replacement for something else that's already pharmaceutically available. It is something that is not available and something that is more effective than what is available. So this is really cool. Basically, they're one of the first countries to do so, and they're just one of 3 countries with a government-sponsored medical cannabis program, along with Canada and the Netherlands. Of course, we're talking about Israel here. Just some facts about autism. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disorders, affecting nearly 1 in 68 children in the United States. And I do believe that just a couple of years ago, the specs on that were like 1 in 100. So we're seeing the numbers of autism actually increase. And this isn't just, isolated here in the U.S. This is across the world. And we're not going to talk about causes today or anything like that. But what we are seeing is more people with autism, being born with it, being affected by it. So this is definitely something that we want to take note of. It says it typically emerges in infancy or early childhood. That's when it's detected. And these numbers are according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Let's see. April actually is National Autism Awareness Month. So I'm glad we're talking about this right now. This is the month to bring it up, to talk about it, to get educated about it, and try to help other people get educated about it as well. It says only 2 medications in the U.S. have been approved by the FDA to treat symptoms of autism. Both are antipsychotic drugs that are not always effective and that do carry serious side effects. So something like cannabis would certainly be a viable alternative to something like that. And again, you have to realize if we're using CBD-based medication, it is typically not psychoactive. Many of the CBD type products out there that are on the available market now in the medical cannabis world will either have a reduced amount of THC or a negligible amount of THC, i.e. meaning you're really not going to get high from it. And there's plenty of strains out there that are like this, and there's plenty of concentrates and edibles as well. So if you're interested and you want to do some research, it's out there, but you're going to have to play guinea pig to see how it works, because right now, again, all we have is anecdotal evidence. And this is in Israel that we're talking about here, not the U.S. Here, this is the study that's going on. I'll give you some details. Study began in January at the Shari Zedek Medical Center in Jerusalem. It involves 120 children and young adults ages 5 to 29 who have mild to severe autism, and the program will last through 2018. So they are treating these folks with cannabis-based products, and I'm excited to see what the results are going to be. Probably won't see anything published on that for a couple of years yet. Obviously, the study's running through 2018, but I think this is pretty amazing. And also, interesting fact here, it says epilepsy affects about 30% of autistic children. So we do know already that cannabis is effective at treating seizures caused by epilepsy. Blah, spit it out. All right, so that's pretty cool. I'm glad that Israel's stepping up. They have been, like I said, a leader in the medical cannabis field now for a while as a country. A lot of their research there being done in Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, and they're continuing to be at the forefront of this research. I only wish that we could share more of that information. It seems to me that if there have been legitimate, recognized studies performed by professionals in the field already, that we could take those studies here in the United States and apply them in a practical manner. However, it seems that we have this sort of feeling here in the U.S. that if we didn't do it ourselves, it's not good enough. And I think really that's just a redundant policy. I think it's a waste of resources, and I think that we should be more progressive than that. We see the same thing happen here state to state, where we have certain states that have already been through a process, have already seen the result, and have now been able to make adjustments, but yet we have other states right next to them starting at block one, if you will, and repeating the whole thing and making the same mistakes and spending the same resources to get to the same result. When really they could have just looked next door and said, oh, yeah, I guess you're really not that much different than us, Ohio, or whatever state it is. Give you an example, like the roadside sobriety testing for cannabis right now, it's already been disposed of, sort of cast by the wayside, if you will. It's not going to be used in certain states out west because they found that it really doesn't work. It really isn't applied in a practical manner, and for all intents and purposes, it's not practical. It's a waste of resources. However, yet here in Michigan, we are doing an extensive multi-year, multi-million-dollar study to do the same exact type of research that has already been done, specifically out in Oregon and in Colorado. Why are we spending that money? I don't know. I maybe somebody at the university needed to get paid more. Anyways, let's move on. That was my autism story. Check it out for yourself. More details on USA Today. Like I said, autism here in Michigan is not a qualifying condition. You may have other symptoms that are associated with your autism that would still qualify, though. So that's something that you want to talk to your physician about, and you may be able to still find relief legally here in Michigan. I can encourage you to do so, I mean, if you can. But for autism directly, no, you can't get qualified for that here in Michigan. That is something that can be revisited down the road. We still maintained and retained our petitioning process to add conditions to our medical marijuana law. We did add on PTSD a few years ago at the same time that we were turning down autism. Maybe with more research like what we're seeing here in Israel, we could actually get it added on if we were able to utilize this research material that will be provided here in the future. So, all right, moving on here and talk about Canada for a minute. Neighbors to the north, most of you by now have heard that Canada is going to go forward with adult recreational marijuana use. It hasn't happened yet, but it is moving through their legislative process. I wanted to share some information with you. It was available today on, let me pull this up here. I'm trying to remember where it was from. Might even be High Times. Nope, Leafly, my bad. Leafly.com, you can check it out. But basically here they're saying a few things that you need to know about Canada's legalization process. I want to share those with you here. This is straight from the big guy, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister in Canada. First of all, he wanted to point out that medical isn't going anywhere, at least for now. They have seen this in other states where their recreational market opened up, and because of that, the medical market just sort of fizzled and was sort of passed on to the wayside. What you end up having is patients who are paying unnecessary fees, having restrictions to the medications that they used to be able to get that no longer can get. So there's been a lot of issues for that for people who are using it for medicinal purposes. His first assurance to the people of Canada was that just because we're going to legalize things doesn't mean we're going to take away our medical program. In fact, nothing is going to change for medical marijuana patients in Canada, at least for the few years to come. That's what Mr. Trudeau says. Next thing he said is, and I'm sure he didn't put it this way, but short and sweet of it is, don't expect the raids to stop anytime soon. It says here basically, they know that legalization is really only about a year away in Canada. However, they're still going to enforce current laws until the days that they are changed. And that's just how things are done, not just in Canada, but here in the U.S. as well. Until the speed limit sign gets changed on the side of the highway, don't start going faster. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing for medical marijuana. They are going to enforce the rules. It doesn't matter what public opinion is or what the most recent MRSA poll is or whatever. It doesn't matter until the law is changed. And that's what Justin Trudeau is saying as well. Next thing he's talking about, next point, is that edibles, they understand that there's a problem in Canada with edibles. They haven't figured out a way to properly regulate this and license this, so it is very limited in Canada as to what forms of cannabis you can actually acquire. They have a lot of questions about the edibles as far as at the legislative level, and they're concerned with, I think the main concern is the dosing. It's so difficult to figure out what is the correct dose, how do you inform the consumer on what it is that they're getting, and the issues around that are the fact that everybody's body is different. Everyone's body will react to the cannabis in different ways, and there's a lot of different types of cannabis on top of that, which will profoundly affect the outcome of someone's medicinal effect. So this is one of those things when it comes to edibles, you really have to know exactly what you're getting, have experience with that product to be able to understand how to properly use it for yourself. And the best person to do that is going to be the consumer, you.
I've had people bring that up because who oppose medical marijuana. They say, well, the dosage is different. You got to have dosage, prescribed and stuff. I said, even in medicines, like whatever, I don't care if it's
Absolutely.
and you can't make people
You can't buy a medicine today that doesn't say, take 1 to 3 or take 2 to 4 every 4 to 6. There's variances in every kind of medication that is out there, whether it be over the counter or through the pharmacist. Cannabis is no different. I mean, some people it's not going to take as much. Some people it's going to take 3-4 times that amount.
Well, look, they have a problem too because they say we can't tell me. I mean, I have issues with smoking myself because I think smoking anything, I don't think it's good for your lungs. But
sure.
There's also stuff in medical. I mean, let's face it, we don't want people to go around jabbing themselves with needles, but they do that during giving us regular injectable drugs.
Sure.
So I mean, the delivery system seems to be kind of the issue too. And I said, well, you look at using an inhaler. Okay, an inhaler, how much? That's not vastly different from bringing in smoke into your system.
Absolutely.
They always want to attack it for those things.
Certainly not going to advocate smoking anything. Okay, but there have been plenty of reports, plenty of studies that have shown that smoking cannabis does not cause lung cancer. There have been plenty of reports that do say it could lead, excessive smoking could lead to things like COPD. And obviously, if you're constantly pouring smoke into your lungs, there's going to be an effect on that, no matter what kind of smoke it is. So smoking may not be the best delivery method when it comes to talking about our health, but it is one of the most effective methods when it comes to controlling your dosage. The onset of the medication can be felt within about as little as 10 minutes, sometimes even faster, and the effects can be receded fairly quickly as well. Typically within 1 to 2 hours, someone's high will be worn off if they were doing so by smoking. Whereas an edible form is a whole different story. It takes up to an hour to kick in, and it could last anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, depending on the intensity of the dose that was given and the person that's taking it as well. So there's a lot of arguments to be made to one side or the other when we talk about what is the most effective way to administer cannabis. I mean, if we're talking about administering medical cannabis to a minor, well, we certainly don't want to advocate smoking. I mean, we're not going to, let's teach you how to smoke. Obviously, that's not what we want to have happen. So there is a place for edibles and other forms of delivery, such as like vaporization, like you mentioned, and that's used for other types of medications as well. There's new products out there on the market, such as like transdermal patches for cannabis. And these things are going to become more and more available because people want to have the benefit of the cannabis, but they also want to maintain a healthy lifestyle. So not everybody out there is going to want to smoke, and they understand that here in Canada, or I should say over there in Canada. And even though they don't have edibles right now, at least the Prime Minister is recognizing the fact that they need them. There is a market for them, and so they said that they will be developing legislation for them. So that's some positive things there. Back to the story, here's a couple more things, a couple more points. Number one, I thought this was kind of interesting. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, he said, we are approaching this new market for legalized recreational marijuana use. We are approaching that market from a standpoint of safety. We want to make sure our citizens are safe. And he even went so far as to point out that here in the U.S., the main focus behind legalization for adult use is not necessarily safety, it's about profits and revenue. And he pointed out, and he said, look, we are approaching it purely from a health and safety standpoint. So I like that. I like that approach. I think it's the right mindset. And I do believe that here in the U.S. we have a problem when it comes to enacting our laws and having them based solely around monetary type motivations. So At least they got something right there. All right, and then the last thing that Mr. Trudeau wanted to point out to the Canadian people about future legalization is that they will be creating niches and spots for what I would call craft cannabis. So it's not all going to be commercial. And there was a lot of folks that stood up in the Canadian side and said, hey, look, when you guys passed your new laws for the medical marijuana market, you hurt everyone that wasn't a licensed commercial producer. We want to make sure you don't do that over again when you legalize this for adult use. There needs to be a market for small businesses, for craft cannabis, products that are made, completely pesticide-free, wholly organic, and these types of cultivation methods are typically not seen on a commercial level. So there is a market for that, and there needs to be one to be allowed for it as well. So those are the 5 different things that basically he came out and said to look for, to understand about legalization. And I think the big thing there that he's pointing out is like, look, it's coming, but don't break the law today because the law hasn't changed yet. We're still working on it. So, all right, that's what's up with Canada. I'm going to move on here, and we're going to talk about Oregon. All right. Well, not really. There was a U.S. representative. His name is Blumenauer. I think that's how you say it. He's a U.S. rep at the Washington, D.C. for Oregon. And it's basically his opinion. It's not necessarily fact, but it's his opinion. And in 5 years, we're going to see every single state have access to medical marijuana. Marijuana will no longer be illegal on any level. And basically, he's predicting that it's all going to be changed within the next 5 years. Of course, he's from Oregon, which Oregon is a progressive state. Oregon is a state that's already legalized marijuana for adult recreational use. They've had a medical marijuana program there now for, I think, nearly almost 2 decades. So Oregon, quite progressive. And that's where this guy's from. So you can see how he's going to echo that type of sentiment. But I like what he's thinking. I mean, if we could get all of these messes resolved, quit putting people in jail for nonviolent crimes, quit making a black market for all of these drug cartels by illegalizing cannabis, and start collecting some tax revenue and start getting these things handled correctly, professionally, in adult manners. Yeah, we need to have all of that, and it certainly should happen within the next 5 years. Could it happen faster? We could hope, right? All right. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's see here. Find the next story here. Bear with me. All right, here we go. This is Homeland Security Secretary John Kelly basically saying that weed is not a factor in the war on drugs. It's kind of an interesting comment, right? This is again from our Homeland Security Secretary. His name is John Kelly. And in a recent interview, in talking about the war on drugs, he stated that weed isn't even a factor in the war on drugs. He said they're mainly focused on methamphetamine, heroin, and cocaine. All 3 things that come from places that are not here in the U.S. I'm sure that there's plenty of meth, labs or whatever out in the sticks, but primarily they're seeing these things be shipped in from other countries. This is where they're focusing their efforts, and that's where the effort has been focused. I mean, if you look at the policies that were set in place last couple years during the Obama administration, where they were saying, look, if you have medical marijuana states and people are following their state laws, just leave them alone, don't bother them. I mean, that's a good thing. They're taking those resources that would normally be used for that, turning back around and going after these hard drugs like heroin and methamphetamine. So, even with the new administration and all that, I know there's a lot of fears and people were talking about, well, Trump doesn't like cannabis, blah, blah, blah. This is one of the people that matter, John Kelly, and he's telling you right now, look, we're really not worried about weed. We're worried about heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, stuff like this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. All right, this one was next article here. Moving on. I thought this was kind of cool. It's talking about hot peppers. You might see this on Huffington Post. There's a couple different news sites are carrying the story. But basically, they're saying that there's a link between chili peppers and marijuana, and that it can be effective in treating people that have diabetes, colitis, irritable bowel syndrome. There's a couple other things, but basically all the types of issues that go on with people's gut. Okay, and I don't know about you. I don't know a lot about people's guts and how that all works. I'm not a gastrologist or whatever you call it. Just layman's terms. But I typically think that if you have a tender gut, you want to stay away from hot peppers. John, is that? I mean, it just sounds like common sense.
It's just common sense, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess, actually, they're saying that might not be the case. And they're saying that when used in conjunction, hot peppers with cannabis, that it actually can have an effect to help heal the gut. And I think that's amazing.
Well, that's what they say when you eat capsaicin or capsaicin. They cause you to start, the burning sensation actually is damage done to your body, but the body then has the tendency to repair itself.
Yep.
So that could be it, building on that.
And you're exactly right. That's what the article was just going to say, was that say that again, capsaicin?
Capsaicin, yeah.
Yep. Basically, it's found in hot peppers, and it's also found in marijuana, and it is one of the main things that can help repair a person's gut. So I guess you need to run to Bangkok Peppers and roll up a spliff or a blunt or whatever it is, do a dab, and chow down. All right? Hopefully your gut will feel better. All right? I thought that was kind of cool. I love hot food. So if anybody knows me, they know I love hot food. To an extent, I still like to taste things when I'm done. But
years ago when I was a kid, they always said that ulcers were caused by stress and too much acid in the body, in the stomach, which is bizarre because that's where the place where the stomach's got to be. But actually, they found some forms of ulcers actually be caused by a bacteria.
Yeah.
And I could see where that pepper would actually, or even marijuana in that sense, can actually cause a hostile environment for it.
Sure.
It's going to cause it.
Well, and there is another ingredient in cannabis, and it's a cannabinoid, actually. It's called anandamide. It's spelled Anandamide. Anandamide. I think I'm saying it best I can anyways. Anandamide. This is an ingredient. It is a cannabinoid, just like CBD, just like THC. It's found in cannabis. And this, in conjunction with what that other one you said, John? The C word.
Capsaicin?
Yeah, thank you.
Capsaicin.
Capsaicin. Sounds like a video game. Capsaicin and anandamide. These are the two things in conjunction working together that help heal the gut. So, pretty cool stuff. Says here, knowing that the brain has anandamide receptors, researchers began to imagine ways the immune system and the brain might talk to each other through the common language of anandamide. The professor of immunology and medicine at UConn School of Medicine is basically saying this. Says, researchers found a greater presence of anandamide led to a greater presence of macrophages, immune cells, that curb inflammation. So, pretty cool.
See, the original source for most of our plants came from a plant source. Like digitalis was from foxglove, and now they synthesized was the chemical agent they found responsible for that, and they basically just enhanced to the point that's all become. And then, like marijuana, there are a lot of times the stuff that's included with it should be needed for the body too, but they just want to concentrate, like for Marinol, they just want to use that.
Right.
And there's other things that go along with it,
You're right, John. I mean, there is on the pharmaceutical side of things, there's a push to try to separate out the different compounds that are found in cannabis. And the more that we find out about it, the more that we realize that it's synergistic. You need all of these different cannabinoids, cannabinoids. You need them all. You need them there because there's so many different things that they affect that they can help you with, and they also work synergistically. So in order to get the full effect of one, you need to have the other along with it, working together. And so isolating them, while that may be practical for some purposes, it's 9 times out of 10 better off to have the whole complete compound there present. I think the trick of it is finding that right makeup of the compound, as we're finding with our testing there at the lab, that there are quite different types of makeups of cannabinoids based on the type of strain that has been grown. So I think when you're a patient and you're out there trying to find relief for, let's say, like something like ulcerative colitis, or maybe diabetes, or maybe you've got MS or epilepsy, you're going to want to try to isolate and find strains that are going to work best for you. And some are going to be more effective than others. So if you get some that you find, oh, that really didn't work for me, try again, okay? And I know it may sound kind of funny, but that's the fact of the matter. When you go to the doctor, a lot of times they'll give you a prescription, and they'll say, let me know how this works for you. If it doesn't work too well, call me back. I've got other ones I can prescribe. This is the same thing with cannabis. There are different types of strains out there, and some are going to be more effective than others at treating your specific conditions. So you have to be willing to experiment a little bit. You may have some failures, but hopefully you'll have some successes as well. And that's why. So you may want to be selective about what type of strains you're getting. All right, moving on. Next story here. I want to talk about Nevada. Nevada, obviously, everybody knows, big gambling states, where Vegas is at. They passed recreational, and now they're working on getting it enacted. This is some interesting news here, all right? Bill 236, Senate Bill 236, would let local governments permit marijuana social clubs and other forms of public use currently that are outlawed. It took one more step to becoming law on Tuesday. The bill passed the 12-9 vote on Tuesday, and it now goes on to the General Assembly. So we'll have to see how this happens. It says here, in Colorado, lawmakers gutted a bill that would have permitted social clubs after the governor warned that such a move could draw the ire of the administration and bring federal drug enforcers down on the state's multi-billion-dollar industry. It says Alaska is delaying a law allowing consumption in dispensaries. Maine is also considering a similar move. So this leaves the door open for Nevada to become the first state to allow regulated social clubs. I would say they are behind the game just a little bit. But at any rate, it says here, adults 21 and older can possess and later this year buy up to 1 ounce of marijuana, but the law took effect January 1st. Makes it so that they can only consume in a private residence. So here's the issue. You go to Vegas for a vacation, you go score a bag of weed, and now you have nowhere literally to use it. You can't smoke in a casino, can't smoke in a hotel, can't smoke in your car, can't smoke in public places. Where do you go to consume? That leaves this right here, your local social club, to go hang out and have yourself a little toke. So obviously there's a need for it. Vegas recognizes it, Nevada recognizes it, and it looks like they might be the first one to actually do it legally. Put it right out there on the plate for people. Says here, Governor Brian Sandoval's 2-year budget calls for roughly $70 million from a special marijuana sales tax, and he said tourists are an important part of that goal. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, you got the governor saying, look, we want people to come here to Nevada to buy our weed. And now we're going to give them a place to use it. So pretty cool watching this industry evolve. You wouldn't have heard that 10 years ago, that's for sure. All right, moving on. I've got one more story here I wanted to share with you. And this is about our neighbors to the south. I tell you what, every time I read about this kind of stuff, it makes me super happy that I live in Michigan and not in that poop hole called Ohio. I'm sorry for all of you that came from Ohio, but it's a poop hole. All right, Buckeyes suck. All right. Anyways,
I'll be sure to post your personal phone number so they can call you.
Right. Yeah. You can rail me on my Facebook page if you want. Anyways, this is what's going on in Ohio, and this is the reason for my hostility. Okay. If you guys didn't know this already, Ohio almost passed a medical marijuana law back just about a year and a half ago, and the whole thing was a big sham. Basically, they were going to allow 10 different people to get licenses. That was it. And you had multi-million-dollar Hollywood celebrity people getting in on it because all they care about is getting more money. Nick Lachey, one of the guys from NSYNC or Backstreet, whatever the hell he's from, he's one of the people who were trying to get a license. So if you want, douches like that lining up to, make more money, as if he hasn't already made enough, well, Ohio might be the place for you to go. And it looks like even though that bill was shot down, predominantly because of the fact that people were aware that this was just another government authorized monopoly, is the main reason why that was shut down. Ohio's back at it again. All right, they are still trying to legalize the production and sale for medicinal purposes. It says their legislation is finally in place, and numerous organizations and individuals are hoping to procure one of the highly coveted licenses that the state requires to cultivate, process, or dispense. And it says here, if you haven't already started to prepare for a cultivation license in time for the June deadlines, it may already be too late because the application preparation process is long and involved. Level 2 cultivator applications are due on June 16th, and Level 1 cultivator applications are due on June 30th. Prior to submitting an application, an applicant must have, among other things, already procured investors and secured real estate in a municipality willing to support a medical marijuana cultivation operation, and in many cases, amend existing zoning restrictions. It says applicants must also meet certain financial requirements and present a robust business plan, which must include, but is not limited to, evidence of cultivation expertise and adherence to proper security protocols. It says here, nevertheless, there are still opportunities to secure one of the state's limited number of processing and dispensary licenses. Those deadlines don't expire until late 2017, but don't delay, because as the case with the cultivator licenses, the competition for processing and dispensary licenses is likely to be fierce, and only those who are properly prepared and working with the right consultants to prepare viable applications are likely to be awarded licenses. It says here, the good news is there's no shortage of interested investors in medical marijuana businesses, even in spite of the chance of a federal crackdown. It says here, would-be investors are attracted by the substantial profit margins that characterize the industry. So there you have it. Looks like Ohio, they had that bill on the ballot for their people to vote, and the people voted it down. All right, they said, we don't want this kind of a program. We want something that's going to be more diverse, something that's going to allow more organic growth on Main Street level for small business people. I think that's what the resounding public opinion was saying. Not that they didn't want medical marijuana. They didn't want a medical marijuana monopoly. And so they voted that down. But leave it to your legislature. They said, well, we'll get it fixed. And they went ahead and passed their own form of legislation, which they're still working on today. And it looks to me like it is nothing more than what they had already had on the table previously. Big fat cat kind of game. And we're seeing this happen across the country. So I think my new creed's going to be fuck corporate weed. All right? But I'll hold on that for a minute, okay? But that's what's going on in Ohio, all right? If you want to play the game down there, go ahead and get yourself a consultant, shell out your big bucks, and best of luck to you. But that's what's up with Ohio, and that's why Ohio sucks, okay? All right. All right, sorry, Buckeye fans. Will we see any of this fall? Anyways, that's what I had for you on the show this week. I want to, again, thank everybody who came out to our 420 party. It was absolute, fantastically fun time. Really want to especially thank everybody who came out to our Adopt a Highway on Saturday, helped clean out. Thank you guys. It turned out to be a beautiful day, and we couldn't have had better weather. And the food was amazing. And then also, I want to remind you guys that we do have our upcoming soup kitchen that'll be coming up here very shortly, as in like just a couple days. So if you can help out, we appreciate it. The date on that is the 28th. It's just 2 days from now. Be going down to the North End soup kitchen there, serving it up. And if you can help us out there, we greatly appreciate it. Other than that, I know we got some fun events coming up at the Genesee County Compassion Club. We've obviously got our move coming up soon, which I'll be having information on that very shortly. I know you're all dying to hear when and where and all that. It's coming soon, very soon, all right? So thank you for your patience, and I promise you, you're going to be extremely pleased, and you're going to be very happy that you waited, okay? No joke. All right. Thanks for joining me this week, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you get out there and enjoy some of this beautiful weather that we're having. I hope you enjoy your spring. Get your clones ready, because in another month or so, you're going to be putting those puppies outside, all right? So get them ready. Thanks for being here with me on allpointstv.com. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club show. John, thanks for being with me in the studio today and making it happen. Thanks for you guys making it happen at the G3C, all right? We'll see you next week. Take care.